First off, I want to welcome everybody here in the Wickers building in beautiful downtown Alderwood Manor, gateway to Briar. And I want to thank everybody for those of you who are on the web. I hope someday you will be able to join us here in the building. And to those of you out on Zoom, thank you for being here. I should probably do this so you're not looking at my 17 chins. Thank you for coming. It's a really nice evening. I'm going to do a couple of announcements and then we'll get going. I want to remind everybody that we are doing a whole bunch of stuff with the Sno-Isle library system. Their Reads Together book is Noe Alvarez's Accordion Eulogies. He's an author. Grew up over in Yakima. I think he lives on this side of the state now. A very interesting book about looking at the history of your family and how it has cascaded down through the years. The bad things as well as the good things, mainly the bad things in this case. But the library system reached out and we're doing 12 presentations between now and the middle of June. It includes the 9th, so next week at 6 p.m. I believe it starts. So please go out to the calendar for Sno-Isle Library System, which I believe is sno-isle.org, if I'm not mistaken. That's not us. And check out their calendar and stuff of events. But the April 9th is an online event, so you do have to register for that. So please do. The other ones are in person, and that'll include Coopville, Stanwood, Lakewood, Smoky Point, Darrington, Granite Falls, Lake Stevens, and just down the street at the Briar. We're going to be doing 4 presentations down at the Briar Library, the Thursdays in May. So, Amy, did you have a question about that?
I think you're giving them, it's the live Sno-Isle, sno-isle library.org. Oh.
No, I don't believe so.
You didn't
just Google that.
Yeah. No,
but I don't believe.
It's that, yeah.
Okay.
It's not genealogical, it's just plain library.
Right, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to remind everybody about is that we've got our nominations for officers start tonight. I know everybody is probably members are probably starting to get a little tired of hearing it from me, but we really do need a couple of people running for offices. The current officers have got a huge amount of work to do in their non-officer roles. Let me repeat that. Jerry puts in 15 hours a week. Only about an hour and a half of it is being treasurer. You are not required to replace everything Jerry does. If you want to be a treasurer of a small nonprofit, if that's what you grew up dreaming of being, this is your big opportunity. We are definitely looking for 2 people. We'll be sending out some emails to remind people about nominating themselves or others with elections in the at the very end of April, beginning of May, and we'll announce the new officers. But again, as I say, extremely important that we get a couple of people to run for offices so a few of us can roll off and focus on some of the other things that we've got going. We're not going to disappear. We'll be here to help you if you need it. Are there any questions about that? About nominations or about the Sno-Isle library stuff? Okay. Lots of good stuff coming up. We're waiting. We do not have a May speaker yet. We'll get that taken care of. Snohomish Walks will be here to talk about, in June, to talk about the Pioneer Cemetery up in Snohomish. looks to be an interesting discussion of what happens when cemeteries go. Things happen. Roads divide things. People are moved. Dead people are moved. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting talk. Of course, then we'll be breaking for the summer for the general meeting. We'll still have coffee clatches on Monday morning. We'll still have the tool shed the third Wednesday of each month. Please go out to the website and check things out. So with that, why don't we get into our presentations? We're gonna, I think it's gonna be a really interesting presentation tonight. We have Keith and Janice already who are gonna be here. Both have been doing family genealogy for a very long time. Both have been working in the FamilySearch history centers. Janice was down in Kirkland, I believe. Keith, you've been volunteering up here in Mount Lake Terrace, if I'm not mistaken.
Down there as well.
Yeah, okay, down there as well. So a lot of good information. The full text search is something new that's making its way out. And so we're going to have them give us an overview of that and a few other interesting tools that are coming about. So I am going to hand it off to Keith.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. FamilySearch is the largest genealogical organization in the world. It was started in 1894 as the Genealogical Society of Utah. It began microfilming records in 1938. More than 2.4 million microfilmed records have been digitized, and more than 1.25 million books are now digitized. Not all digitized records are available online because of licensing and legal issues. When microfilms were created, FamilySearch received a license from the owner of the record, which governs the right to put records online. The same is true for digitized books. Online access to digitized records can be restricted by law. For example, when an author creates a book, it is protected by copyright law and cannot be made available unless the copyright is lapsed or the author has given his or her consent. If there is an existing copyright, the author rarely gives permission. Also, online access to vital records is restricted by privacy laws, particularly for living persons. Therefore, some digitized microfilms and very few digitized books can be seen in the more than 6,500 FamilySearch centers in 140 countries around the world. Some digitized records and most books can be only seen at the FamilySearch Library in Salt Lake City. We come to you from the FamilySearch Center in Mount Lake Terrace. Many of you have been there, and some of you may have attended presentations that Janice and I have made there. So it's just not very far away from here. It's the closest FamilySearch Center to this location. And by the way, our first spouses are deceased, and where did Janice and I meet? You guessed it, in a FamilySearch Center. Now, FamilySearch has had an ongoing effort to add records that have been digitized by other large genealogical organizations, such as Ancestry, Find My Past, and MyHeritage. And so I'm going to show you some how to access the traditional catalog. Now, if you look here, I'm going to go up to the.
You need to jump into go back into the Zoom. You're not sharing yet.
Okay. Oh, I got to share. Okay. Sorry for the problem here. Let's see, I got to go down here. Where did I share it? Where do I share it?
Nope, next to it, the Zoom.
No, I don't see it. No.
Sorry.
Oh. That's the action.
Go ahead and maximize that for a moment. Okay, and
Oh,
then
there we go.
you want to go ahead and share.
Now I'm going to share. Which one am I going to share? Yeah, everything's so small you can't see anything.
This is your browser window.
And I understand.
Yeah, go ahead. You're going to be working from the browser, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And then, here we go. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so you're good there. And you can,
I want to share.
nope, you are sharing. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
No, click okay.
There you go. Okay, good. Okay. I'm going to show you this is the traditional FamilySearch catalog, and the way you access that is by going to here up to
You need to
search.
take this one out of the way. Can you minimize that? Thank you. There we go.
Okay. Then you go to search, and then you go down to catalog. Okay, and this brings up the traditional catalog. I'm not going to go through it a lot because this is what it looks like. And you can search by, as indicated here, place or surnames or titles or authors or subject or keywords. And I'm going to show how those are demonstrated in what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm not going to go through that. I just want you to be aware that this catalog is there. And this catalog represents the 2.7 million rolls of microfilm and the 1.25 million digitized books. And you can sort by these various categories as I indicated. Now, the other thing that I want you to be aware of, there's another place that you can go to. Gotta get up to the top here again. And you go to search, and you go down here to where it says images. And you click on that page. And that brings up this particular place. And on this, images are organized by image collection. And so I'm going to go to search for historical records, for example. And here you can put in your names and this kind of thing. Or you can go down here to, and I'll show you again, I'm just doing this by way of background. Here are the historical collections. And if you notice here, for example, here's Alabama County marriages. There are almost 6 million records in that. It was last updated at this date. And if you see this camera here, that means it's online and available. And then you can go over here and you can go to restrict it to birth, marriage, and death records or census records or in these various types of records. You can go to wherever it may be in whichever country it may be in, and and you can restrict it by date of that kind of those ways. It's just now this particular data set is a result of FamilySearch and the large genealogical companies like Ancestry and Find My Past and My Heritage. Back in about 2008, 2009, 2007, sometime around that time period, those companies got together and said, look, we're all going out and digitizing all these records. So let's figure out a way where we don't have to, we don't duplicate each other's efforts, because that doesn't make any sense. And so what they agreed to do is they agreed to get together and share the records that they had at the time. And so they shared them. And so, for example, FamilySearch has now all the records that Ancestry had digitized, or that Find My Past had digitized, all of those kinds of records. And as a consequence, that process took some period of time. And then they agreed to, in the future, to share what they digitized, so that, for example, maybe Ancestry is digitizing in Czechoslovakia and FamilySearch is digitizing in Italy, or that kind of thing. They agreed to share those records. And so each one gets advantage of the other one's work without duplicating the effort. And so that's how it worked. Because FamilySearch is a nonprofit and doesn't charge, never will charge for any of its services, it negotiated with all these parties an opportunity for members of the sponsoring church, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to get free access to those memberships that all those websites. And so, but if you are not a member of that church, what you do is you go down to the FamilySearch library, FamilySearch Center that Jess and I work at, and we're there every Wednesday from 9 until 1, and it's open by appointment at any time you want to come. And we have most of the days, a number of the days, we have full day operation. So come down there, and what you get to get there is the gold-plated versions of Ancestry. For example, if you go to your local library and you go to Ancestry, there you get what is the library version of Ancestry, which is, you can access for free at your local library typically. And but if you go to, but that's not the gold standard version. The gold standard version is the institutional version, which only archives have. And FamilySearch has purchased institutional versions of all of these big data sites. So when you come to you can access them for free at the FamilySearch Center and that we work in. And so you get there the best of all worlds. So I just wanted to talk about images and how that worked. Now, the presence of the internet and the use of digital cameras has had a revolution of how people can access genealogical records. FamilySearch currently has over 300 digital camera crews copying records in over 24 countries. And these efforts to digitize have added, for example, in 2024, added 1.1 billion records to FamilySearch, and that's an average of over 3 million records per day. If you just to take and divide that number by 365, and so I want to go here to this tab here and show you what's going on. The old traditional records are these records here that were the 2.7 million microfilm things and the 1.25 million books and that kind of things. And now they have been merged into this database here. And so this was, the old traditional catalog is no longer there. It's now the FamilySearch library catalog, but it's made to look, now they just announced it made to look like it's just like this catalog, so you won't notice the difference. But all of these records here that came over from Ancestry and Find My Past and the other ones, all of those records are in this database. Now, this is the database here. This thing here is where we are now, what we're going to talk about tonight, the records that all these digital cameras have produced. So what do you think of this database with the microfilms and all the stuff that you receive from FamilySearch, from the other genealogical companies is bigger, or do you think this is bigger? Which do you think is bigger?
Yours.
Pardon me?
Yours.
This is the bottom one?
Yeah, the middle one.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're right. You're right, because right now, the best estimates are this one is about 2% of the records that are available at FamilySearch, and this is 98% of the records of FamilySearch. So my guess is it's less than one. It's a fraction of 1% at this point in time, and it's getting lower. The ratio is getting better, bigger, or whatever, however you want to talk about it. In other words, that the ratio between the two is changing to where this one here doesn't contain anything like this one contains. And what we're going to talk about today is full text search, and that's how this here works. Okay, so what I want to do is to I think if you take anything away today, if you don't think of anything else, just think if you really want to get to what's available on FamilySearch, go to full text search. Okay, and I'll demonstrate how that works and some tricks that we've learned to do. Now, because the internet let me go back to my notes here so I don't miss anything I wanted to say. Full text search uses a subset of artificial intelligence called machine learning for computers to create transcriptions of these records. So basically what it does is the computers now are they're sending them out and using AI, using artificial intelligence, this subset of artificial intelligence, to go out and look at these records. And what the computer does is the computer creates a transcription of the record. Now, computers are basically stupid, and so what happens is they make mistakes. And so what a person looking at it can realize immediately the computer's made a mistake. The computer doesn't know that. So the computer has to be trained over time. And that's what's been going on for the last 18 months or so, as this full text search is proceeding. And the computer is getting smarter and smarter. And now it used to be in the old days, you could send in a comment to the engineers, the software engineers that were working with this, and they would look at and see what the complaints were and try to fix the ones that had the most complaints. But now they would just announce the Roots Tech that they've now reached the point where we as patrons can now start submitting our transcriptions as we've corrected them to the full text search, and as a consequence, they will it's now going to get a lot smarter as it goes on. Now we'll give Corey a handout which he will circulate to you, which will help you learn how to effectively use full text search, because full text search uses transcriptions of records created by computers. Like I said, we're going to talk about how we can aid that problem. But again, the important point here to remember is that if you want to get to access of these voluminous records, that's the place to go is to full text search. So let's talk about full text search. Now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to back up. Okay. Now full text search. Basically, what you do is you go to here. You just have to sign in, and when you sign in, this is called the landing page. This is the basic page that when you sign in, that's what you see. Okay, and what you do is you go down right here to the side where it says FamilySearch Labs. Okay, this is and full text search is a lab experiment. So what we go here to labs, okay, and these are the available things. One is here's full text search, and we're going to go to that experiment and show you how it works. Other things that are relevant to using AI is this ask a help chat box, and this is a conversational chat box that can access all of the major family search help resources to answer your support or on-site questions. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. There's videos that are on the that Corey will be able to send to you that will explain that in more detail. And the other one is here, Grow Your Tree with AI Research Assistant and discover new insights and maybe even now, even new ancestors in a way that has never been possible before. And again, you can go and you can experiment with that if you want, but we're going to talk about full text search. So let's go to that experiment. And when you go to full text search, this is what comes up. This is the page, and let's see. I can't quite see my notes here. This page here is so. For example, let's. I've been spending some time, and I'll give you examples. My 6 times great-grandfather lived in Tennessee, in Bedford County, Tennessee, between 1810 or 1808 actually, and 1830. And I wanted to find out about him. And we know that he was in the 1810 census in that county in Tennessee. He was in the 1820 census in that county in Tennessee, but he was not in the 1830 census in that county in Tennessee. So we knew that he had passed on by that time because his wife, when there were 89 members of my family moved from that county in Tennessee to northeastern Missouri in 1829, 1830, and pulled up stakes, and there weren't anybody left there at all in Tennessee. And who went with him? Well, his wife went with him because we found her up in Missouri. And so as a consequence, we were able to determine that he died sometime in there. And one of the questions I had is, when did he die? Nobody knew when he died. We knew he was alive in 1816 because I have a deed that he signed in 1816. And that's the last thing we have on him. And so I was going to try to determine using deed records and probate records, any other kind of record I could find actually, to see if I could determine what happened. So what I did, for example, you can start out with here. I'm just going to put the name of that 6 times great grandfather. And I'm going to put that in there and I'm going to say, okay, he's going to be in, and I'm just going to do a search for that and see what comes up. And it'll take a minute here to do it because a tremendous amount of, it'll go out and search everywhere on FamilySearch, all the records of FamilySearch, wherever they may be. And let's see how many results we get. Well, we get 161 million results, okay? Well, we need to narrow that down a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to narrow it down by place. So we're going to go over here to place, and we're going to say, okay, what place are we going to go to? Well, let's go to north to United States. There it is, United States. Okay, and we're going to apply that. And that's going to reduce the records by some amount. And then we're going to go to Tennessee. Let's go to Tennessee here. Okay, here's Tennessee. Okay, we're going to apply Tennessee. And then we're going to go to that county. Okay, and we'll go to the county. And it's Bedford County. Okay, and we're going to apply that. And let's see what that does to the records. Oh, it reduces somewhat. Okay. Well, that's still an awful lot. And so the thing to do, I said, well, remember the way it searches the thing, it searches for William and it searches for Allred. Well, what if I take off William here? I just delete William. Now let's see what happens. And that happens. Wow. All of a sudden I've got 112 records. That's getting more like what I want to look at. And so let's take a look at some of these records. Now, what you do is when you do this, you go here and hit the search that function, and it brings up the record. And here's the record. Here's the record here, and here's the transcript. So what we can do is we have a lot of things that we can do with this. For example, we can, if I wanted to have a citation to this record, I hit this button here, and it creates a citation for me. Now, this is not a citation that is widely used. This is a citation that FamilySearch uses. And if you're dealing with records outside of FamilySearch, they use a different citation method, but nonetheless, this you can copy this, and this gives you a citation. Now, you can also attach it to your tree if you want to. You can go over here, and this allows you to download all of this information that's here, or you can go over here and to get a copy of the transcription. And so you have all those kinds of options. And then in addition, you can go here, for example, to adjusting the image, and you can adjust the brightness, you can adjust the contrast, you can rotate the image left, you can rotate it right, you can do a number of different things, or whatever you want to do. So you have all those kinds of options. So if I look at this particular deed, and there's the plus and the minuses make it bigger or smaller, but you can also just use your mouse and roll it in like this. And if you notice here, it's brought up anytime Allred appears, because that's the name that was in there. There it is in the record. And so you can see it highlights it in blue, and you can look at the record. And so, for example, in this particular deed, I learned how to read this pretty quickly. And so you say, this indenture was made the second day of November. This May 2nd day of November in the year of our Lord 1829, and this is state of Tennessee, Bedford County, between Hiram Davidson and Sally Davis, his wife, and hereafter, and on the one part, and Hamilton v. Sumner, it looks like to me, the same county. Well, this is not one of my ones, so I'm not interested in that one. It doesn't deal with it at all. It happens to have the name of William Allred there, but that deals with that deals with the legal description that talks about a survey that William Allred did on this property earlier on in 1813. And I'll show you how that works a little bit later. I can show you how I tie all that stuff together. Okay, so that's one I'm not particularly interested in. So I'm going to go back and let's go back. Get out of there. Okay, and then I'm going to go here to this one. Okay, I'm going to look at it and see what it is. And I'm going here and looking at it, and what does it turn out to be? Well, it turns out to be another deed. And this one here is a deed from between Isaac Allred, who is one of the sons of William Allred, and the brother of my fifth time great grandfather James Allred. And so I'm able to look at this, and it tells me a bunch of things, who he sold it to. Now, this tells me, for example, that he's literate, because he is signed with a seal. Otherwise, if he's not literate, it'll sign with an X. And that's how, for example, William Allred, my sixth-time great-grandfather, and his son, the brother of my fifth-time great-grandfather, also named William, one of them was literate and one was not. And I was able to figure out which one is literate and which one is not because of just by signing those deeds, the way they signed the deeds. Okay, so this one is a relevant record of the sale of property, and so that's important. And let's actually go back and look at a couple of other things, a couple of other ones. Now, here we come down here. Let's see what this does. And again, this is stuff that I could find. I could dig through the old records and eventually find it, but this is so much quicker. And here's an indenture. Indenture means a deed. Made this third day of October of the year of our Lord 1815 between William Allred of the one part and James Allred. This is my James, my fifth time great grandfather. He went up and worked on the Ohio and hauled logs down to the Ohio. You know, remember most of us are old enough to remember Fess Parker and remember when they were building the river boats down there on the Ohio. Well, that's what my ancestor was doing, is hauling those logs down, and he made a lot of money doing that. And as a consequence, during his life, he was much better off than his brothers were, and his brothers-in-law and the other relatives that they had. So anyway, so that's the deed. That's an interesting deed. So let me go back. And what's interesting, you notice how many we pulled up. Well, it pulls up the ones that are most relevant to your search parameters. They come first. And then all the other ones are the ones that become less and less relevant as they go down. So that's one of the reasons, but I'll show you how to get rid of all of that problem and make it even more precise in a moment here. So, so let's go here to, okay, and then we're going to go here to the next one. Now here, Tennessee deeds. And this one here is, again, records. And this one here is This indenture made this 9th day of September between 1823 between James Allred and of the county. And anyway, the whole point is, I have a whole series of these deeds, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to show you how this search engine works, other ways to handle it. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put in something like this, ALL, I'm going to put ALR, and then a star. Now, what that means, these are called, what was I called? Wild cards. I can never remember that name. This asterisk is a wild card. What it means is anything that has an ALLR and then a whatever follows that, it'll search for that. Okay, and so if I do that, watch what happens. Now we're down to 131 results. See? And so you can, and this is cumulative, so that, and you get these down, narrow down to where you get useful information. And so that's basically how it works. And then you could add other ones. For example, I found an Aldrich in one of the deeds. And if I don't want to do an Aldrich, what I do is I go up here and I put minus Aldrich. ALDRIDGE, and then I hit the search function again, and it'll get rid of any Aldriches. And didn't find any there, that particular one. But that's the way you can reduce those things. So you can put this ALLRC up in here, and if you do it up there, you can put it like you do a plus sign, like this. And then ALLRC, and that's it'll produce the same. Let's do it with just one L, for example, and no C. And let's see how that changes the things. See, now we've got 18 results. So in other words, there are ways to narrow this down, and that's how I do it. And Janice will demonstrate ways that she does it and give you more examples of this as we go through it. Now, some things that you need to know about in terms of tips and tricks, and we're going to talk about those kind of things. Full text search is better at transcribing mixed, printed, and handwritten documents than pure handwritten documents. Because they can read the printed stuff pretty easily, typically, but the handwritten ones is where it has more of a problem. Full text search is better at transcribing recent handwritten documents than older handwritten documents, where handwriting styles and word spellings are much more variable. Now, don't be bothered by variations in spelling of names. That's the biggest bugaboo that people make mistakes on. Particularly in the US, spelling of names were not standardized until the late to mid 1800s, when most people were literate and dictionaries came into wider use. The same is true of many other countries. Janice and I have done a lot of work in the 1500s and 1600s in England. The person who's transcribing will spell the same word different, just within the document differently. It's just not, it was not that important. Earlier name spellings varied greatly, where there was a wide variety of local dialects. The person giving the clerk the information in the document usually was illiterate. This comes from our experience in England in those early times. And the clerk grew up in an area different with a a clerk grew up in an area with a different dialect from that which is spoken by the person giving the clerk the information that appears in the document. So and this happens in the United States, for example. I think most people know who Brett Favre is. He's a famous football player. Well, Brett Favre's ancestors came to Louisiana from Quebec in the late 1700s when the British kicked the French out of Canada. And they moved from Quebec to New Orleans, and they ended up going south of New Orleans. And he speaks Cajun. Brett Favre speaks Cajun, which is a blend of French, English, Native American, and African American dialects. And often the clerk transcribing a record by a Cajun speaker, many times who was illiterate, transcribed it phonetically so that spellings vary greatly. And so that's just an example of don't take name spellings terribly seriously, or even place spellings. Spelling were never, they just weren't standardized. Now, as I indicated, Janice and I will I've given you some demonstration here of my things, and I'm going to turn the time over to Janice for her to do her thing.
This will be your browser. So we'll share. Okay, we're set.
Okay, I don't know how to get.
You got to share your screen.
No, she's
Well, I
here.
already did. It says I use screen.
So you got your browser. You're going to go to FamilySearch. Yeah.
Okay, this way.
You can minimize that.
Okay. Yep, okay, can you hear me? Can people hear me?
You're a little soft. Maybe if you can move up a
Okay.
little closer.
All right. I'm getting the delayed thing in my AirPods, so it's driving me nuts a little. Okay, we're on FamilySearch, and I'm going to take you, this is the new page. And because I've employed the AI research assistant, it's listed, it's gone through my whole tree. I just asked it one question. And it reports back on it's found children and a spouse, and a lot of those have been correct. So if we, well, oh no. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Okay. So how do I make this smaller?
You can move it up and down.
I know, but it's too big. Okay, we're going to the full text search, which I have used quite a bit of. And I have an ancestor named Thomas Talbert. He was born in New Jersey about 1767. In his life, he will live in New Jersey. He will live 20 years in Ohio, and he will end up in Indiana. In New Jersey, we don't have too terrible of a time researching him. There's not a lot of Thomas Talberts. But when we get to Ohio, there's like 5 of the same name in the same county. When we get to Indiana, yeah, we have some issues. So I'm just going to show you documents and things that popped up, of which I had bits and pieces of, but had never seen the original. It was printed in a book. It was someplace, and the originals popped up on the full text search. So, and as we know, originals are key in our research because not everything's reported in a transcription. So I put his name in, and I always do it in quotes. And for some reason, I get better results in the keywords than the name field. Don't ask me why. It just seems to work that way. So, and I'm going to put just New Jersey to start out with. And I'm going to take it from about 1788, just before he comes of age, to 1805, when he has left New Jersey. And see what we get. So you'll see, I looked at this afternoon. This is just out of a printed index. I have seen that before. He never lived in District of Columbia. Here we have a deed. His father died in 1798, no will. It took a few years to settle all of his property. And this is, you'll notice, let me bring that. Okay, when his will was settled and the property divided among all the children, Thomas Talbert and others, to Caleb Scattergood. Okay, and this is that deed. And it lists all the children between Thomas Talbert and Kezia, his wife, Joseph Talbert and Catherine, his wife. So, you know, if you didn't have these names, you see the value of finding that. John Talbert, who wasn't married, neither was Jonathan, Mary, Job Conroe, and Rebecca, late Rebecca Talbert. So you have all the children. There was a second marriage, and there's 3 minor children, and that created a lot of paperwork. But anyway, so what I do, just to give you an idea, what do I do with this document? Well, as Keith pointed out, you can download it, but look at the options it gives you. You can download it as a PDF with the highlights left in, without the highlights. You can download it as a JPEG, which will take a lot of room. And the transcription and the citation are optional. And if you print it out, it'll do the document with the transcription and the citation on the reverse side, okay? So I download and save to my computer. Another thing I do is I use the source box. I don't know if you're familiar with the source box on FamilySearch. I love the source box because I can add the image to the source box or just go to my source box. So let's just say I was going to add it. So there's a home folder. If I don't say what folder I want it in, because I've created many folders because I have hundreds. So I have, just to show you, these are all my surnames. So I just file things away. And I'm getting to the point I may have to do subfolders on some of that. And then I can put in a note, like, why is this important? You know, it's a will, it's a deed, has the birth date of somebody. So that shows up when I'm scrolling through that folder. I know why that item is in there, okay? So you can access that when you're in any document on FamilySearch. You don't have to be in the full text search. This is an option. The other thing you can do is under your name, you can always access your source box. And the beauty of it, as opposed to just saving a document to my computer, is when I'm back in there, for instance, there's a probate file that's 18 pages long. Well, all 18 pages I can scroll through if it's in the source box. I have to save it page by page on my computer. Okay. So it just I don't have to research again. I don't have to remember where I got it. Everything is in the source box. So, and then of course, here is the transcription. They're getting better. They're not perfect, but important. And as time goes on and it gets trained, in fact, there are programs where you can train it to read, say, your father's handwriting. My father left his autobiography handwritten in a book. And so I could feed that software program 10 or 11 pages, and then I could feed it the whole thing and it can read it. There are programs that will do that. So can you see the time saving that all of this is going to give us? Because I thought of, anyway, transcribing or whatever, but wow, that's, I can't get out of this. There we go. Okay, back down. Scrolling through, there were tax records. By the way, when they released this a year ago, it was just probate and land records, okay, in three countries. This year, they've expanded the full text search to 29 countries. And yeah, and millions of records. It was 100 million records a year ago. And it's
2.2 billion. Records,
yeah, it's, and it's all kinds of records. There's marriage records, there's everything. So there was one other record I wanted to show you. And you'll notice that we didn't do too bad. We got 28 results. But like I say, there's not a lot of Thomas Talberts. If I go to the South, District of Columbia, oh my gosh, there's so many Thomas Talberts. But I was blessed that in New Jersey, there weren't many. So this thing, even though it says miscellaneous records, and I would also caution you, don't worry about the date. If it looks like something you're interested in, the date may be irrelevant to the date on the record. In other words, somebody's quoting, I originally bought this land from this person many years before. Or it ends up in a collection of volumes and they've gone by whatever was on the spine. So that I found to be tricky. I was avoiding it like, oh, you know, he didn't live in that time period, but I have found that not to be true. So, okay, here's another record we can show you on him. And we'll enlarge that a bit after his father died. And Thomas being the oldest son, and Joseph and others, heirs, they're petitioning to divide the land, which they finally sold to Caleb. But I want to show you what's in here that was also really interesting.
Were they put under guardianship?
Oh yeah, if I pull up his file, the guardianship records, the orphans court.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, it handled all of that. And see, this is getting in the way. Okay, and the other thing I would caution you, just learning from going through all of this, is when you find a record, definitely copy it. They won't all always show up. You go back and you're in full text, you know what you put in. It's still a lab, which means it's not even always up and running. That's what they tell us. So when you find something, be sure to copy it, download it, do something. So, what now?
Like a beta system, that's beta system.
Yeah, see, it's still in a
Still in
testing
trial.
phase, yeah. So, and because it, yeah, so I was hoping Grace's guardianship thing. Let's see, yes. Okay, well, it didn't show up this time.
Just need to scroll down.
Yeah, but it won't show. Okay. So one other example I will show you, and it's Indiana. So it's still Thomas Talbert. We're going to reset because sometimes that memory it has will carry over. It'll keep going back to New Jersey. So you just reset. This time we're going to go to Tippecanoe, Indiana. Pick that there. He's there from 1825 till he dies in 1838. Well, actually, I'm going to go a little further than that. It doesn't settle, because the estate doesn't settle until later. So, see what's even possible. So the order books, there's court records. He's actually involved in other probate records of other people. Oh my gosh. And it only has 6. Okay, this is where you play with it. We're just going to take Tippecanoe out. You know, it's that thing of less is more. Usually you start out with less, like Keith did, and you add more. Some people don't understand, especially on Ancestry, only because of the field, the way it is. If you go from FamilySearch to Ancestry, and you're looking for something, and what is it imported? The names of all the children, the birth, the marriage, and the death, and you get 0 results because it's trying to find something that matches all of it. Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, so let's see what we get. Okay, good. See, I'm actually getting more now, 36. So the value of looking at this patent, Thomas Talbert of Butler County, Ohio, and that's where he was living before he moved to Indiana. So he purchases this land while he's still in, his residence is still in Ohio. And it just, you know, Crawfordsville is where the land office is. And it will go on to describe that property, where it is section. And of course, that's really important because later on when you're researching who inherits that or who he sells it to, what it will mean. So anyway, that is, you know, certificate number. John Quincy Adams is the president. Anyway, this is what he receives before he even moves. Okay. And he's not in Nashville. Here he is, there's court records from Butler, they pop out. Yeah, no, okay. And more court records, I'm trying to think. And this final estate record. So he, like his father, died without a will, I think rather suddenly. And this final estate record has like 20 pages, everything that was in the file, all original. I had seen parts of it, but never all of it. It was just incredible to be able to see that. So you'll notice that And this happens a lot too. You'll start in the middle of a document, so you need to go to the page before. Again, just little things to check, and it will take another page back. Anyway, again, you can put it in your source box, you can download it with the citation and the link. You can do all of those things. So it had, oh my gosh, yeah, all records of everybody who was paid in that period of time out of his estate. It gives you an idea of who he did business with if you're doing further research. Another thing that's interesting, and it didn't show up this time, but there were birth records of children. Well, there's no birth record outside of what is in that probate file. Yeah, it listed the birth dates of the children. And there are no, that's the only place you would find it. So land records and probate records are incredibly valuable. So, what now?
I found mine, my second great grandfather's children, Civil War firemen.
Really? Yeah, a pension, they have to list.
First and second wife's names, dated death.
Naturalization records on ancestry. Sometimes too, they have to renounce, to King Ludwig over in Europe, and everybody in their family who came with them, when, and I mean, the details are incredible. So anyway, just play with it. Less is more. Start out with less, decide how to save it, capture it in some way if you can, because it's still in testing. It's not consistent with what it shows up. And so I can go to my source box and everything I have found is there. Okay.
Is there a difference between putting a name in the name field or putting it in the keyword?
No,
field?
I've had more luck with the keyword, believe it or not. And I put it in quotes to keep the Thomas and Talbot together. You probably know that. But otherwise, it looks for every Thomas and every Talbot. And it just really cuts down the number. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I think I'm finished. Okay. I couldn't hear you. What? I've got to take this out. Say that. Searching for what?
The person you were searching for, he died in Indiana.
Uh-huh.
What year?
What year?
Oh, 1838. In the fall. What now? Well, found the probate file. What's interesting is they often don't give you an exact death date. You find out when it went to court, if they left a will, how old the will may be. But actually, if they die without a will, they leave a lot more records. So wills are wonderful. I'm not away from that. But they often don't mention all the children. They, he's already given them something. Right. They often pass laws earlier than that, but they didn't enforce them till later in the century. And most states are like that. I've never found anything. Wow. Well, newspaper research, maybe you find interesting. Yeah, try that. Well, yes, try this. I mean, amazing.
I noticed on the page of the document that you're looking at that it had attached to tree. That lets you actually attach as a source record instead of putting it in your source box to the person. Does that look the same as it does with every other record that's in the normal catalog?
Yep. Yeah, so you can do that either by ID number or.
And it creates the citation for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to show you a couple of things that I actually forgot to show you. These are the land records around where my ancestors lived. And if you look at them, And what I wanted to find out is where I found a record that, see this funny shaped piece of property here? That's where it says Beth Beret Presbyterian Church is up in the corner. That's a very unusual shaped piece of property. And what I did is I found a deed that it was in 1823 where James Allred bought this piece of property, funny shaped piece of property. And the only reason he bought it is because Beth Beret Church was there, and that's where his father was buried in 1822, 1823. And then let me show you one last thing I want to share here. And this is a program that I use, the Janice is, let's see, Zotero. This program here, let's see if I can can't tell which one it is.
You may have to close that window and reshare
Yeah,
to find it.
I thought I did.
Or scroll down.
Okay, I'll share. Okay, now I gotta go to Zotero, which is this one here. I don't know where. Let me see if I.
Click that button.
And I don't know which one is Zotero.
Scroll down.
Scroll down.
Oh, here it
There
is.
it is.
Okay. All right, this program here is a program that I use a lot. It's called Zotero, and it is oops. Now what do I do?
Here. Yeah.
Okay, Zotero is a program that academics use to help write their master's theses and their PhD dissertations. It's got a fairly steep learning curve, but it has some great ability to do things. And I just want to show you, for example, that piece of property here that my ancestor bought, my fifth times ancestor bought from his father. I'm sorry, bought from Woods, rather. Let's see. Oh. Here we go. Okay. This is the information that I have, and I've gone through and edited the transcript. And if you look at the legal description in the transcript of that piece of property, and so when was it done? Well, it was December 27, 1822. Here, the URL, I just click on this button if I want to actually bring up the actual document. And this is the information, and here's an abstract. And like I say, I've gone through and done this and edited the whole thing. And so I now have a perfect record. And for example, if I want to go to the URL, then all I need to do is do this, and it brings up the transcript. And there it is. And this is the way, if you really want to store large amounts of information, and I can go through and get maps. I have maps that relate to that piece of property. I have surveys that relate to that piece of property. I know when under homestead laws, go to that, and I can go from there. So somebody's raising their hand there.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
That's okay.
Anyway, okay, the whole point is that if I'll be doing a presentation on how to use Zotero, if you want to learn it later on, probably in the fall at the Family Search Center. And we'll get notice out. I'll get it out to Corey
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
anybody wants to attend.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I love this.
There's a website that specializes in using Zotero for genealogy, and she is Zotero, Zotero, with a Z, and Donna Cox Baker is her name, and she writes. She's written books on how to use Zotero for genealogy and that kind of thing. And one of the things she does, she has lots of books in her library, and what she does is uses Zotero and goes in and tells and it reads the ISBN number of the book. And so
That's all you have to feed in.
that's all you have to see. It loads everything in from there.
And knows the title,
The title of the author, and all the background, everything about it. And then what it does is she says, that's on such and such a shelf in my office. And that way she knows exactly where each book is, and she can go and grab the book off the shelf. And we thought that was pretty special, because we've got probably a couple of thousand books in our house. So, we have trouble keeping track of them. So anyway, so I just wanted you to be aware of that. Janice wanted you to be aware of it. So I'm sorry I took so long.
So I wanted to ask a question so I can make sure I've got this right. The new documents that they're scanning are immediately going in. The machine learning algorithm is doing a full transcription of those documents, and then you can search it within full text search.
That's correct.
Okay, so what we've grown up using has been human indexed, usually partially indexed. So that's why you can search on names and places and a few things in the census, but you couldn't necessarily search on occupation and name because they don't index it. But within full text search, and you actually see the full text on the side. So if you're like, I'm having trouble reading this, you could go over to the full text side and go down. So I got that right
You
so
do,
far?
and in addition to that, what they do is they use computer assisted indexing. People don't index these anymore. And when they come in, they're loaded into the FamilySearch database within 24 hours of when they receive them. And then you can also go into that database and you can say, tell me which ones are new, since the last time I accessed it, there's a way to do that. But the point is, 3 million records, probably more than that now, are being added to that database each day. And remember, this is a document, a record. And on that record may be a lot of information, like on a census record. There's lots of people on a census record. And now there's one big giant, the reason I had to redo the handout is there's something that just happened on Monday. There was a disannounced on Monday, and Google has now done a step ahead of everybody else, and they made it free to people. And you know what it'll do? It won't just search like the FamilySearch's chat bot only looks at what's on FamilySearch. Ancestry's chat box only looks at what's on Ancestry. This one looks on all of them. It goes out.
Billions of records.
It goes out on the internet, and we don't know how accurate it's going to be. And there is, and if you go to the new handout, there's a place on the second page that is all in caps. Go to that and watch that video if you want to get an idea of where all this is going. And if that's the case, if that chat box will go out and now access everything anywhere on the internet in the world, think what it can do.
Say again where that video is.
It's on the second page of the handout.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I asked Corey to send the handout out is because all of these links are really complicated. So if you get it electronically, all you do is click on it and it'll go there. So go and watch that. He'll be sending that out to you, to everybody who's here and everybody who's on Zoom. And you'll be able to do that. But watch that video if you want to get an idea of how it just blew me away. I mean, and this is done by a guy by the name of Tanner, who works at the BYU FamilySearch Center lab there. So,
And actually, I'm going to put that out on the SIGS website, Sno-Isle genealogy.org. If you look in documents section, you can get the handouts will be posted there, because I don't necessarily have people's email address. Yeah, Sno-Isle genealogy.org, and on the menu item, it's like documents. And so you can go over and get the handout. I did have, so let me ask you, Keith, as a final point then, we've got our traditional searching tools, we've got full text search. I assume that like the regular search interface doesn't look at full text search yet?
No, because it's not in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so us as researchers, we're gonna have to go through, we're gonna have to do our thing, but then if we see something, we can go over to full text search and say, okay, I'm looking for a probate, I'm looking for whatever.
Right.
There were a lot of document sources that were never indexed. You showed some where you see images, but they actually weren't searchable. Are they gonna go back and run those through the algorithm so that they'll be available, or are you still gonna have to page through those?
well,
Where it's only image only?
well, image only, full text search will go to the proper image and whatever. There may be 5,000 images within a role, within a
But
database.
what you mean is that it's going to make it every name searchable.
Well, no, I'm saying like the documents that have been out there for 10 years as image only, are those going to be eventually pulled through and
Well, the image only
searchable?
documents are all searchable now with full text
Well,
search.
they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, remember, full text search is a prototype, it's a lab experiment. What they're hoping is that it will graduate to where it becomes fully supportable and no longer is an experiment. When that happens, they think that Roots Tech, they were saying they think it might happen this year. I don't think so. I think it's going to take longer than that, but eventually it'll get to the point where it will become integrated, and there will only be one catalog and you can search everything at one time.
Okay. Are there any other questions, anybody?
Making it faster and better.
All righty. Well, I want to thank Keith and Janice. Thank you for working through us. We had a few technology stumbles, but once we got going, it worked. I want to thank everyone out on Zoom. I want to thank everyone here. Again, for people who are members, we, particularly Jerry and I, would love it if you wanted to get nominated for an officer position. Let us know. And check the calendar in a couple of weeks. We should have our May presentation up by then. All righty. Thank you, everyone. Good night.